Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Nader Hamda, the founder and CEO of Ozobot, Ozobot. Thank you for joining us, Nader.
Thank you so much, Fred.
For folks who aren't familiar with Ozobot, give us the run through of what you're all about.
Well, I would say I'll start by first talking about how we even came up to to who Ozobot is and what it is. And the idea came to me when I gave my two daughters my phone. I basically used my phone as a digital pacifier to keep them occupied. But what I was really doing was feeding this growing digital addiction problem our kids are all facing today. And along with feeding of this addiction, I also saw three things happen. First, they quickly became physically unaware of their surroundings. They got into a purely solitary mode when they're using my phone, and most alarming, they were consuming whatever was on that screen. So ultimately, my goal was to figure out a way to design a physical product that would be relevant to their digital experiences and ultimately inspire them to create technology.
Interesting. And of course, a lot of parents can relate to what you're saying there. So tell us how the Ozobot approach helps with all of that.
It helps with all of that in that it introduces a mixed reality experience. Ultimately, kids are used to engaging with apps and the digital worlds, and we wanted to introduce something that was relevant to them and current to them, and introducing a mixed reality experience where the robots are interacting to anything that they're doing with the tablets, with their digital experiences in the physical world, bringing them physically into the world that we all live in, but ultimately engages them with very kind of visceral interactions in this in the space that we're in.
So you're doing this with tiny robots for people who aren't familiar with what an Ozobot is. Give us the overview there.
So Ozobots are basically 1 inch in size. They are designed to go anywhere with a child. They are loaded with sensors. They're constantly reading what's on the ground. We start kids with very simple ways of interacting with the robot through a patented color command language. You draw whatever you want on a piece of paper. The robots will identify them and start following whatever you just drew. But they're also smart enough to understand that whatever they're seeing on the ground could be commands for them to do different things, and that's our color command language. They can we have speed codes, U-turn codes, special move codes, dance codes if they want to make them dance. So it's an immediate way, a visceral way for them to start interacting and engaging with the robot. And from there, we systematically build up into having them control the robots through a visual programming language where they can introduce multiple codes, and by that we start to teach them about programming and coding all through kind of game-based applications, introducing them to if-then commands, Boolean logic, arrays, functions. The more they want to control the robot and take and work with it, the more they have to learn how to code it.
And you've been working not only obviously with individual kids and parents, but with schools as well. Tell us how you've gone about doing that.
We ultimately saw that the best way to kind of introduce something like this is in the school systems, and we kind of started that off at a very early phase in our evolution. For us, technology is being introduced in all aspects of a child's life. For the most part, they're digital natives, and they need to kind of have that in all areas. And the classroom was a perfect place for us to start to introduce concepts, coding concepts, STEM-based concepts. We like to kind of call it STEAM-based because the arts component is a very important component that is being lost in the school systems, and we want to find ways to bring it back in. And so we started to introduce structured lessons and activities for educators to incorporate these lessons into their current curriculums, whether it be ISTE, Next Generation Science Standards, all the different curriculum. We look to supplement our Ozobot lessons into what they currently do.
And you've been successful in getting this into thousands of classrooms.
Yeah, we're in over 10,000 classrooms right now across the country, and we're also going into internationally. We've been approved by the Ministries of Education in South Korea and in France as a recommended tool to introduce coding and STEM education into the classroom. So we're pretty excited about that. We're pretty excited because it's a single solution platform that can start as early as kindergarten, and it scales up all the way to high school by introducing our two ways to code, which starts with a patented color command language and then gets into our visual programming. And teachers are starting to find more and more ways to incorporate it into the classroom because of its size and its scalability.
I would assume that because of its size, the tiny Ozobot, that there are some limitations with what it can do and how much it can store in terms of memory. Maybe not as much as I think, but tell us where you go from here.
So ultimately, I think that's one of the double-edged swords for us. We love the size of it. We don't really want to change that because ultimately, we want to be able to interact with a child on the desk and work and have activities that are all very desk-friendly. So size became a very important component for us. And in doing that, to your point, function became a very critical decision process for us to figure out what is truly needed to be put into the bot and what can be kind of an external source that we use. So we do have a lot of offline experiences, but we also have online experiences and being able to kind of leverage the depth of the tablets or the computers and being able to store memory on that side of the equation, not just on the bot itself, is an area that allows us to start to add more flexibility if students want to add more and more programs that they can create and share with someone else so somebody else's robot can execute a program that they did. They don't necessarily have to store it directly on the bot, but they can store it on our community, on our sites, and then they can share it that way. Another robot can then, through Bluetooth, through BLE, can access that and see your creations executed on their robots.
Well, give us a little peek into what's on the drawing board, what's next for you over the coming months and years.
Ultimately, I would say our vision is to establish Ozobot as the premier robotic platform for coding and STEAM education across the globe. And so we are building an ecosystem to accomplish this by first helping teachers become more comfortable incorporating technology into their coursework. That's been really the focus for us, is finding a solution for the teacher as much as for the student. Then at that point, once we can get the teacher much more acclimated to incorporating a robot into their classwork, is we're looking to introduce feedback loops, which is an opportunity to get real-time awareness of individualized student learning for both screen-free and connected coursework. Ultimately, the Ozobot feedback loop would represent a shift away from big data and standardized student metrics to a system that captures small bites of data, which educators can in turn analyze and make individual recommendations per student. And we're very excited about that because we feel like education really needs to move away from the big data components of how we kind of measure success of a student and getting much more into personalized learning in the classroom. And the inclusion of technology allows us to really accomplish that, and we're just fortunate to be able to be part of that this movement.
What are some of the anecdotes you may have about what kids have learned from playing with and learning with Ozobot?
Ultimately, I believe kids love to use a lot of the music apps, a lot of creating, because they want to show their own personality through some of the apps that allows them to kind of change people's faces, change the movement of of their sounds. That component never goes away, and we want to continue to empower that. And Ozobots allow them to do that in the real world with physical robots, and in the context are working together. They're collaborating. I know my own daughters. We used to do music nights where they would do dance routines for myself and other parents. Now they can still do that, but they do that with the robots. The robots actually do the dance routines for them. But to accomplish this dance routine, they're they're indirectly learning how to code, how to synchronize, how to collaborate together, and those are all valuable skill sets that they're going to need as we're preparing them for this workforce of the future. That robots and humans are going to be ubiquitous in so many ways.
And you do have some fun add-ons too, right? Some even licensing some characters for sort of dressing these things up.
We do. I think that's one of the things when we first designed the Ozobots. It was very important for the Ozobots to be gender neutral and age neutral. We did not want to make them specific to any one gender or even any kind of specific age group. But we also know that that's a very important piece of people love to personalize. So we give them the ability to kind of get one of our Ozobots, and then dress it up, as if you will, into whatever character you want to make it, to really become yours, to become your companion on this journey of learning.
Terrific. For more information, folks can go to ozobot.com, Ozobot.com. Nader, Hamda, thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now this. How many companies out there have continued to innovate when it comes to building a better radio? I'm Fred Fishkin, host of Techstination, and I'm here to tell you about the new CC Skywave SSB radio from the wonderful people at C-Crane. Bob and his crew really love radio, and it shows in this new compact model that is packed with features. Beyond great AM and FM reception and sound, you can tune into shortwave signals from around the world, listen to ham radio operators, aviation, and more. It's the radio you'll turn to every day, and in emergencies. It will run for nearly 3 days on just 2 AA batteries. Pair the sleep timer with the new Soft Speaker 3, and you've got the perfect radio for your nightstand. Of course, it can wake you up too. Click on C-Crane at Techstination.com and put in the code Techstination for a free flashlight with your order. They love radio, and you'll love C-Crane.